Now we got the right vibe. Okay, here we go.
Scott and everyone, welcome to Awaken Hidden Truth. Soon, we're going to start a new year, now, Scott.
Yeah. Who knows what twists and turns will come about to get people to get their head out of the sand and start paying attention to changes that they normally are blind to see. I don't mean that as an insult to anyone on earth. It's just that people have been conditioned since birth not to see the forest for the trees or the truth hidden in plain sight or anything else, because most people on earth are driven by subconscious fear of the unknown, of death, of life, and they don't remember how they got here. And they don't know who they are as a being, not a body or a brain. Most people, you could walk up to the street and ask that question. They might give you some psychological answer, but they really don't know. Most people don't. So, and they think that's normal, God's will or something. But in actuality, it isn't. It's not the will of some source behind all life, and it's not normal. So my work is simply to help bring, and it's kind of an enlightening awareness to people so they can get in, co-create into a position where they can actually change or recover who they are, what they knew before they were born here. They have a right to it. They just don't trust that they do. They probably don't believe that they do. Right?
You're so right, yes.
So, and that's a problem when you're trying to work with people on earth, because if you help them recover a little bit of who they are, they want to recover everything else, but then they want me or someone else to do it for them. It's natural the way people are raised here, but it doesn't work like that, not in my experience. Once a person has a few tools and begins to recover a little bit more of their higher faculties of being, that which they are that is not and has never been a physical body, but runs one of these machines at 98.7 degrees Fahrenheit, this RNA, this DNA machine. They were originally designed long ago in galactic history to be able to have the Atma, the spherical being running the body, be able to run higher faculties of creation through it. People on Earth have long since lost, for the most part, awareness of this fact. Just becoming aware of this fact, what they look like as an Atma, which isn't some abstract, astral, transparent body that looks like this. That's just a body they have that's just as physical as this, on a higher molecular time rate. And it has higher abilities than here, but it's still a physical body, and it lives and it dies in time. On the causal plane, mental and etheric planes is major divisions above the physical universe. The same thing holds true. None of them are realms of real freedom as an Atma, because Atmas didn't, what we are as a being, didn't originate here. We didn't originate in physical matter or in time and space. So you can't find out about who and what you are as a being trying to find it out through time and space, because that answer is not in time and space. It is someplace. But that's in the realm far above what certain esoteric groups, including I think a good deal of Buddhists, think is the void, and there's nothing beyond it. I think some may think there's something beyond it, and many just don't. That's what they're taught. Maybe some more advanced ones understand, hey, there's really some stuff going on beyond that void. And once they start that journey, they really move into mastery quickly, because you can't without it. So, part of this work, yes, it has to do with the revelation for people that extraterrestrials not only exist in vast numbers beyond their imagination, but the majority of them are kind and very advanced. Some tyrant races are out there, but most are not. And the ones that are policed pretty carefully these days. So they can't come here and just wipe out the earth. They tried that and failed. They tried to infiltrate the elite on the planet. And although they were successful to some degree, that too has been stopped. So we're left with what they did here to people subconsciously. And that's the misuse of extraterrestrial technology, designed originally to be beneficial and used in a perverted way. So that has to be reversed for people on Earth. If they want to play and join, be able to play and join others out among the stars and play in the universe, the multidimensional universe, then we're going to have to learn how to get along with those people. And you can't do that if you're in terror of them. You can't do that if you don't know they exist. So they're not going to just come and land in mass all over the planet with a bunch of people, the majority, terrorized like this. They'll just go nuts and hoard toilet paper or something, paper towels. Whenever something scares them, they start hoarding. It's a panic reaction. I don't blame people for this for the most part, because they don't know how they got here. They don't know what was done to them to put them on this earth with no memory, or very little, of what or who they are that has never been one of these. And yet every single being on earth is capable of recalling and recovering this under the right conditions in the right way. And most of those conditions in the right way have to involve beings more evolved than us, human and otherwise, that have the technology and the ability to help us recover who we are. They aren't on this planet. It's very important to understand this, at least not yet, not openly. So their attitude, and the ones I co-create with and that I work with, is they want to benefit Earth without running its governments. Number one, nobody wants that crazy job. And how to fix people on a 7 billion level in a way where they can accept life from other worlds coming here without freaking out. Being able to go into a transition from what they know now into a much greater truth about what lies beyond this earth, where most of God is, because it isn't on this planet. Most of what they've called the supreme being they pray to and worship to on earth is out there in the multidimensional creation, and it's just gigantic. People on earth, though they don't know it, are capable of understanding this. Not the brain and body they grew up with, no, because it didn't learn any of this growing up. But the being running that body unconsciously is capable of understanding what people call the supreme being, the source behind all life, what more advanced races out there call prime creator. It's true. I went through it. Others are going through it, both in the classified and hidden government arenas and in the public. Not a great enough percentage quite yet to really have masses numbers of ships come here peacefully and help solve disease and pollution and energy use, all that stuff. They did that hundreds of millions of years ago. I'm not joking around about this. This is common to them. And if we want to enjoy the benefits of such technology, advancement of spirit, you might say, consciousness of beings, people on earth need to understand or recover or remember or recall who and what they are that is not now, nor has it ever been, a physical body or brain. Because they're temporary and everybody knows it. Races among the stars in vast organizations of world systems are not going to come here and wave a magic wand and just make the place a paradise. Everybody on earth has to do their part to co-create that event with them. And for that to happen, people need to recover more of who they are than they know now, or that can't take place without a lot of destruction and rioting and craziness and fear. I would say that the majority of people have seen enough movies and watched enough UFO and extraterrestrial things and science fiction and all that stuff and films, and to where they really understand. Most of them down deep know we're most certainly not alone in the universe and never have been. This is why when I begin to share my work with people on your radio show, one of the first things I always share is that human beings never evolved on this planet in the first place. That one little bit of information is generally not heard in the internet or anywhere else on earth. I'm not saying never, but it's a very obscure piece of information. It's based on direct experience and truth, whether people know it or not. So, if human beings never evolved on earth in any race that's represented here, then where did they evolve originally? What was happening on this planet millions of years ago? 95, let's say 60 million years after the dinosaurs were extinct. There's a history that's missing from the consciousness of people on this planet. It's their history. Or I should say, it's the history of people that have been reincarnating here life after life and other worlds and coming back here with no memory because they were there. Long before Lemuria or Atlantis, over 100,000 years ago, millions of years ago, and on other world systems, the people on Earth, even the most unconscious person, once knew more than they know now. And all of that is recoverable under the right conditions with the right beings. It is. So, if people contemplate or imagine viewing, what does he mean? Human beings never evolved on Earth. It means they didn't evolve from monkeys. They didn't come out of the primordial soup of this planet from amoebas, become walking fish with fins on land, and then grow into dinosaurs and become humans. And we were never part of Neanderthal or Cro-Magnon men either. Those were humanoid species that went extinct on this planet. This whole idea of breeding with them and that's what created us is nonsense. That's the only thing people have to draw conclusions from with the little data they have, because they really don't know. It's all theory. It's not provable. If human beings didn't evolve on Earth to get this level of sophisticated DNA with the brain we have and the ability to create and make things, people think they're doing it from this brain that they grew up with and they got a PhD in a college. How much can one person learn about the universe on schools on this planet by the time they're 24? You get my point? They aren't creating these wonderful things because of that education. They're bringing it here from other lives and higher intelligence that they are, and passing it into that brain when it's properly trained to be able to try to bring a higher technology and fit it into the technology that's available to this world. That's what inventors really are. They don't originate these creations. They believe they do. But it's coming from places and spaces where such things exist and far more advanced things exist. It's really important for people to understand this, because otherwise they're never going to know consciously before they pass away what they are. And the only thing they're going to take with them when the body stops functioning is what they're aware of. If they're terrified of death and they don't know what's in the beyond, they don't know what God is, and they've been praying to it their whole life, when they get out of their body and that body look down and see it's stopped functioning, they're going, oh my God, I'm dead. First thing they think is they're dead. And of course, they don't realize they're talking to themselves, so they're not dead. The body has stopped functioning and they're out of it. And then they have to go wherever their imagination and emotion takes them. If that imagination and emotion is negative in nature, guess what kind of beings and things they'll meet up with and where they'll go in the next compulsive incarnation. None of that is necessary. Being born in a lifetime on any planet in the physical universe with no memory of what you are that isn't that lifetime or that body, that's what I would call evil. Anything that prevents a being from knowing what they are that has never been a physical body or brain is evil. So we want to get around that, neutralize that negative energy. We have to stop putting our imagination and emotion into it, feeding it, supporting it. Because the fact is, the one energy out in space that people on Earth call toroidal or zero-point energy does not work according to the laws of physics as people on Earth understand it. It is finer and it's behind or supporting things like planets revolving in it, or suns revolving in it, or galaxies turning in it, with vast areas of this thing they think is black void, because human eyes can only see a small frequency. So when they see photographs from Hubble and satellites, human eyes, even when they're blended with colors from infrared and ultraviolet, and you see all these colors in these galaxies, people still see this blackness between everything. And it isn't black at all. It's a white golden energy field. One type of energy that everything floats in. And that energy moves up in different vibration rates up through parallel dimensions and into higher major divisions of higher dimensions and other realities. There isn't just billions of galaxies out there floating around in one little parallel level of existence. That's all there is, Big Bang, and that's it. No. There's many, many dimensional levels to all of that. So to think in terms of a materialistic way, as a materialistic being, that we're just the effect of the speed of light at 286,000 miles per second, is to trap yourself in being an animal or a human body with a brain that's limited, can't know things. And that's what's happened on Earth, and it goes back into galactic history, why and how that happened. Okay, so when a person on Earth crosses paths with someone or something or some event or some phenomena that gets them thinking and viewing life beyond this world and understanding that they used to know it with certainty. They didn't theorize it and maybe kind of believe it with a lot of doubt behind it. They actually knew. And if we expect to step up and walk amongst beings from other worlds and accept their gifts of their higher technology, cures for diseases and all that stuff, then we have to come to be able to walk in our own gravity with our heads held high, not in ego, but in mutual respect and trust. There is no other way. This world we live on here is at a crossroads. It has no future the way it is now, because the way it is now being run, it will self-implode. It will self-destruct. The planet will be here, but people will not. We're at a crossroads where we either step up to bat and get accepted into a greater organization of world systems that's already traveling the stars out there, or we remain quarantined in our own solar system because we're too dangerous and cannot be trusted. This whole idea of competing to go weaponize space will never, ever fly. Far more advanced races out there will not permit it. Neither would I, neither would you. They're not suppressive. They just want us to grow up. If we're going to accept a part in all of that, we have to be able to respect them and know they exist. So you see, ultimately, a classified system that lies to people cannot work. There's no future in it. There's not enough money they can ever pretend to create that will keep paying to fix the problems they create because they don't know who they are. They're not making good decisions for the whole planet. They just think they are. The evidence of the way the world is shows that they are not making decisions that's good for themselves and all life. I don't blame them that they've been given to grow up here on this planet from their predecessors, from their parents, down through time. What little time they think it is, going back 10,000 years, is silly. It's just silly. So where did human beings evolve to this form? I don't care if you're Asian or African American or Eskimo or Aboriginal or South American Aboriginal Indians or American Indians or Siberian Indians or Caucasian or any race, Semitic, Samoan, Hawaiian, whatever they are. They all originally evolved in that form on other world systems. They were brought here often as slaves, but not always, in a history they can't remember, to work, do the dirty work, mines and that kind of thing, in small places on Earth under treaty. No one race has ever been allowed to dominate this world from the stars. And that goes back to the end of a great war 500,000 years ago, where that treaty got struck. Earth is smack in the middle of all that. And the other problem is Earth's poles would keep flipping every 100,000 years, destroy all the life on the surface. If you can get off in a spaceship, too bad. And then this world has had to been colonized, plants and animals and humans and other races brought here to recolonize the planet when it settled down after one of those events. 6 of them in 600,000 years. That's classified because that has to do with extraterrestrials. And anything having to do with that is highly classified on this planet between 35 countries. So if we want to change that, the people in power have to have a little bit of courage and stop playing with egos and nonsense and accept help from out amongst the stars that's been offered. Because it's not going to be forced on anyone. As I said, there's no future in space exploration the way this planet is. People may think there is. You cannot get from here to Mars in a rocket ship tin can, because human bodies in zero gravity atrophy and they would die before they got there. You have to have artificial gravity, and still the journey, 2 years each way, they're just not fast enough to be practical. Sure, you can get a space station built above the Earth and you can go to the moon. Try taking that thing to another planet 2 years each way. Even in the movie 2001, they had a revolving section so people could have gravity and exercise and live normal to make the long voyage. And that was beyond Mars. And that was, what, how many years ago was that movie made? There isn't any way astronauts can survive in tin cans powered by rocket ships that go so fast and shut off and coast the rest of the way. There's not enough room in those size ships for them to live normally and have a normal gravity, a gravitational field, and to move from one star system to another. You have to have that surrounding any craft or you won't make the journey alive. We had an astronaut from Russia and the United States served for 1 year in zero gravity. Their bodies atrophied. They lost bone mass. They had all kinds of physical problems. They had to be rehabilitated when they got back. That was for 1 year. So the problem isn't so much the technology to get from here to Mars, using Earth technology as it is, because they can create some kind of artificial gravity or whatever. The problem is the time it takes to get anywhere beyond Earth, even our nearest planets, is unacceptable. It's not logical. It's not practical. You could never get enough equipment to create colonies on another planet 2 years each way on one ship. It's just not practical. You know, people can build a space station, then go to the moon, because it's only what? It's short distance, 4 or 5 days there and back, whatever. But once you try to go from here to some other world, the systems of rocketry will not work. That's just, to me, it's common sense. But I know a lot of people on Earth don't see that yet, but they will, because we're not alone. Beings from other worlds that are kind have been trying to get across information and things to people here to get them to come out of their stupor, to come out of their self-destructive, polluting kind of thinking, and greed and nonsense for a very long time. Only tyrants want to compel or trick or force people to do their bidding. Advanced benevolent races, which are what is mostly out there, don't do that. However, they are very concerned about the self-destructive nature of the way people think on this planet. They understand people can't be blamed. They weren't given anything else to grow up with here. Their worlds are not like this planet at all. The human worlds I'm talking about. They just aren't. I mean, people would be blown away. They'd think they were in heaven to go to just a normal planet somewhere out there. They're not all good, but most of them are. Now, if people on Earth begin to disclose this to certain people, to the rest of mankind, in the right way, with help, there won't be any riots. No one will be shot. No one's going to be executed or harmed in this transition. The only people that will do that are the people in power doing it to our own people out of fear. People from the stars are not going to do that. So that would be self-created destruction, wouldn't it? Can't blame anybody from outside of Earth. Well, if you go back far enough in galactic history, you can find out where all this started. But until then, think of it this way. There are beings out there that have recorded things going back even before the dinosaurs were brought to this planet, when it could sustain life, and it was a different atmosphere and a whole different thing. And they have recorded histories of all of this in their cultures. And yet so many people on Earth today would fight you to the death if you tried to tell them the truth about any of it. What they call God is a lot bigger and more benevolent than they know. It doesn't just favor the people on Earth. It It's one little planet, third planet from the sun amongst many, amongst billions of stars in one galaxy and billions of galaxies in just one parallel dimension of the physical universe. And there's 144 of those before we even get to what people call the astral plane. So you might say, well, how does this guy know about this stuff or even talk about it? Well, it wasn't easy to recover it, I can tell you, on a world like this. I did not come voluntarily to this planet. That's not saying anything big, because nobody else did either. I'm not originally from here. I didn't get born voluntarily through the parents I had. I was forced here against my will, captured. Now, this is a terror people on Earth do not want to look at again. They're afraid of seeing it. And yet all their higher faculties of being are hidden subconsciously behind that terror. And once that terror is gone, the awareness they once had begins to return. So the only thing that needs to be neutralized is any negative emotional nature. Fear, doubt, theory, speculation, debate, all create animosity, anger, and wars between governments and religions. Look at the history of Earth. None of that originated here, including kings and royal family bloodlines. All of that was imported to this world where they developed out there among the stars. So I wanted to say that to people. And no, I don't blame people on Earth. How can I, knowing what I know? I don't blame the military-industrial complex or classified people for the fear they have of telling people the truth. They had to grow up in it themselves. They're just as afraid of telling the truth or seeing it than the rest of the people are, most of them. There are many good people in governments on this planet. There are good royal families. They're not all tyrants. They act in fear, out of fear, and sometimes do harm to people. There are many people in the classified arenas and in the military forces that are good-hearted, kind people. Many of them in high places are beginning to recover, wake up. They know something's really out of balance here, and they want to fix it. And it's their responsibility to co-creatively fix it with the help of beings from other worlds who don't even charge money in order to provide what they offer. That scares people on Earth more than anything, because they're only used to charging money and making up money that doesn't exist and controlling people with it. If you get this truth from other people, you're going to have to grow up. People here are going to have to accept a whole nother way of living than the way of the status quo, because it's destructive only, ultimately. We really don't have to hunt for the technology to get rid of sewage systems, change cars into other types of transportation, work with other antigravitic propulsion technologies and interdimensional portal technologies, antigravitic technologies that work through already existing portals that exist through the multiverse, through which more advanced races travel to get around. We didn't create in these levels the existence of the structure of the multiverse or the nature of the one energy that supports all of it, that it all floats in. It was already here. We can learn to telepathically communicate with that one energy that has no negative nature or positive nature. It's behind it. It supports all life and creates. It's the one power that brings into manifestation whatever we imagine in it, good or bad. On Earth, people are busy all day long putting out streams of both things at one time. And it's like taking 2 points of a battery and shorting it out, because they're thinking positive and negative, and it grounds the energy to the Earth. And they remain unconscious in bodies here because of that. They don't know any better. How could they? People on Earth are capable of understanding this when they're ready. It's not suppressed forever. It's not gone or destroyed forever. It's just suppressed behind a wall of fear, an artificially created and implanted wall of fear. It's not even real. It's artificial. It's like having a bad computer program running subconsciously to help you make the wrong decisions throughout your life about almost everything. Anyway, we work with this one word hue in other world systems and other realities. And people are going to find this out whether they like it or not, or believe it or not, sooner or later, for their own benefit. There is one sound, one first sound in creation, what people call toroidal zero-point energy of the universe. And it has a certain way of being, a way that we have to work with it in order to gain the advantage of knowing how to circumvent the laws of physics, go faster than the speed of light. That's a joke. Speed of light is 286,000 miles per second. You know what that is? Only what your physical eyes can detect. There's no limit to the speed of light. There isn't, except the consciousness of people, their belief limits them to be trapped within the concept that it's limited. Because that's all they can see with physical eyes. As people develop technology, they're being able to see far beyond physical eyes, and then they begin to understand. When they get above their body as the Atma, they can see the energy that their physical eyes can't see, and they can learn how to work with it even more swiftly. This is what beings in other worlds have done. So we really don't need to learn it. They're not better than us. They had a different galactic history than we had, and they didn't have a planet whose poles flipped all the time, wiped out the whole culture, so they got to start over. They didn't have that. I would say the biggest problem they've had, and it's not their problem, is what to do about this big problem of Earth over here. Because people want to set off nuclear bombs and blow themselves up in a radioactive holocaust. But that would damage certain things that people on Earth are not yet very aware of. Parallel dimensional doorways, portals between two different concentric generators of energy from one time rate to another, exist throughout creation and are in a profuse number around the surface of the planet, under the ocean, on the surface above volcanoes, or in the atmosphere, in triangular grid pattern. More advanced races understand how to move through these portals. So they understand life is much bigger than people on Earth think. A nuclear war would harm life in other realities, parallel dimensions on Earth. We have no right, and never will have any right, to harm because of our own stupidity, lust for power and greed and fear. There is no future in the way Earth is right now. Think of it this way. Other planets at some point at a critical juncture of self-destruction like Earth is now had an unexpected contact from beings from other worlds. Something that turned everything around at the last minute. And if it happened to them, they're just passing it forward. Once people on Earth in power begin to realize this, they'll let down their guard, their fear, and they'll be able to start working in harmony with such beings. And then this world will change virtually overnight, as it has done on other world systems people don't yet know exist. So, the first half of the word human, hue, is a way that human beings, with or without vocal cords, with the imagination or out loud, can cause an effect in the pineal gland in the center of the brain. It's set up this way, folks, so that you connect telepathically to what you were made to forget so long ago. And that one power then begins to work with individuals to train them, to uplift them, to become conscious, trustworthy co-creators with it, the source behind all life, prime creator, supreme being, whatever you want to call it. Anyone who's had direct experience with that source, and I don't mean faith or belief, but really direct experience, knows they can understand what it is and remember what it is, and they know that their purpose for existing is to co-create with it new ways of doing things through the right and correct use of their imagination, to bring about those things which will be of uplifting benefit to all life. Not just life on Earth, mind you, all of it. Human beings, as backward as they are on this planet and as unconscious as most of them are, and I was, have the ability whether they know it or not, to recover all this under the right conditions, with the right help. People running around in arrogance saying they're the center of the universe and nobody exists out there, and all this kind of thing, are simply blocking any change that's possible for them in this lifetime. They die or pass away in ignorance and fear and carry it with them wherever they go. What we want to do is help people eliminate fear of anything, particularly death, so that when their body passes away or they leave it on purpose, they're not carrying fear with them and they're not creating the same kind of cycles they've been in. That would be the interest of most extraterrestrials I know of, is regarding Earth people. To fix this broken consciousness in people, this subconscious negative stuff. The technology to do it does not exist on Earth at this time. It does exist out there, and it will be brought here at the right moment, the right time. But beings on Earth can recover their ability to have mastery over any negative emotion or imagination by understanding. And when they do that, they begin to recover their higher faculties of being. No matter what was done to them, no matter what's in their subconscious, they take control back. And this is really important. Okay, so if we go on a little journey, which I try to do for these radio shows, I begin by sending out the hue as a direct experiential demonstration. Whatever you can pick up on or what you can't, that doesn't matter. It does have a beneficial effect on anyone who hears it. It doesn't have any negative nature. It's not motivated by power, greed, or money, or fame, or fortune. It's not its nature, because it isn't materialistic. It is energy, but it's the real energy that's behind and supporting what people call materialism, or the material universe. There's a material astral universe, a higher heaven, a causal universe, a mental universe, an etheric universe, a void, and many realms beyond it. All of them real, all of them tangible, all of them experienceable. People can experience them. But people on Earth don't yet understand that they have the ability to do this because they don't believe it. They're not taught it. So I'll go into this and I'll send it out in successively higher tones or pitches. And it helps the body that you put to sleep every night go to sleep, except there's one difference. You remain conscious of my voice, conscious of yourself, and then we go on a little journey first outside the atmosphere of Earth because it's very negative. And we get out in space above the planet where there is no negative and positive, where there is one primordial, supportive, first energy behind all things, where no negative can really be put into that void of space, as it's so called, and affected in any way. There's nothing in the void of space energy, the first energy, that can store anything of a negative nature. That's all artificially created at some point in universal prime, how would I say it? Multiverse and galactic history. When I say multiverse, I mean higher dimensions, not just the physical universe you can see through a telescope or a radio telescope or a Hubble telescope or anything like that. That's just one level of it. And this will help your astral, causal, mental, and etheric bodies you have, we all have, running on different dimensions of what people call heaven, simultaneously with the one you're running on Earth. First thing tyrants did long ago was remove or suppress, or force people to suppress in themselves their awareness of who they are as a spherical being and the different bodies they're running on different levels. This process begins to recover in people. I don't do it. The hue itself does. It's an omnipresent, conscious, living field of energy. It is not an individual like you and I, but it is conscious. And it is the one power that manifests anything you imagine in it, good or bad. It's completely unbiased in that regard. There is a new type of energy moving through that one sound that did not exist there before about 8-9 years ago, Earth time, out amongst the stars. And it is there to motivate beings to begin to understand their destiny And that is to become a conscious, co-creative, trusted co-creator with the source behind all life. I'll begin those tones now, and then we'll go on a little journey. What's really taking place here is that you, whether you're aware of it or not, running a body on Earth, are causing the pineal gland in the center of the brain, or pineal gland, to secrete serotonin, makes melatonin. It produces a process that is not understood on Earth yet, that puts the body on automatic so it will run, breathe, heart work, blood circulate while you're gone. This is the mystery of what people on Earth call sleep. The body goes to sleep while you leave it. You go to higher energy, bring back higher energy, and you recharge the body. When it's done unconsciously, there is a limited lifespan for people because it's not conscious. The being, you, is spherical, round in shape, like a sun. a planet, a moon, or a star, which is a sun. Round, not triangular, not square. And they are made in the image of their creators. Yes, there's one creator in a sense, but it's made up of many individuals connected telepathically together. From the highest dimensions, through the void, down through the lower dimensions of time and space, and all the way down to and through the planet Earth. This one energy is in constant contact and communication with itself everywhere, simultaneously. You, the Atma, put that body to sleep every night. And if you identify with it, who can blame you? Growing up on Earth, you're going to identify with it and think you're the body and brain. And you've got what you call a soul stuffed away somewhere. You don't know where it is or what it is, but you think it's somewhere out there. The illusion is that you believe you're a body and a brain that can perish. Bodies, DNA, and that can go back to dust, sure. But what you are is not some mythical faith belief system. You are comprised of the very same core energy as the Supreme Being, Prime Creator, the Source itself. Like a drop of pure water, luminous, in a mighty ocean of that same water. That is what we really are. Can't change that. Cannot be destroyed. You can't die. So we might as well become fully conscious of what we are again. And in a new way, so that the wisdom is imparted to us henceforth to know how to use the imagination in ways that will be beneficial to all life, including ourselves, and not just life on Earth. All of it. So direct knowing experience or direct knowing certainty are what we would call one of the highest faculties of being. And it uses exclusively the imagination. Imagination, as I'm referring to it here, is not made up in a human brain. There's nothing in a brain of a human being that has a motion picture camera in it or a projector screen on which it can see things it imagines. Quite impossible. Neurons in one part of the brain don't just suddenly connect with neurons in the other part of the brain and show you pictures to watch of your imagination. That's not the purpose or the function of the brain of a human being. While the brain is running the body and its complex mechanisms, and if you are unconscious of the fact you're not a body, then when you do daydreaming and you imagine being somewhere else than where you're bored at work or an office or whatever, and you daydream and imagine being somewhere you would rather be, here or on another planet, what people on Earth aren't taught growing up is that they're actually seeing it somewhere else. That is the creative imagination. It is that faculty we work with to have this one power manifest what we imagine in it. It's a co-creator with us, by the way. So we want to make certain as we recover our higher awareness that we do not any further imagine negative things for ourselves or others under any circumstances. Because the primary law of the physical material universe, all 144 parallel dimensions of it, is that whatever we put out into this one power with our imagination and emotion comes back to us. And it becomes a very severe teacher at times in this way. On a normal human planet other than Earth, beings don't use the imagination or the emotion in negative ways like people on Earth are used to doing from the time they're born. You are a spherical shaped being. That energy, which is energy, is not nuclear or atomic in nature. There's no protons, electrons, neutrons, quarks, semiquavers, whatever you think of as sound, or spectrums of light. incorporated in the core or the different layers that make up the spherical Atma, or what people on earth call soul. It has layers of different teardrop-shaped, self-luminous little computers, you might say, although they're not mechanical, that store information, other lives and other worlds, other places, other times, other parallel dimensions, higher realities, where we originally came from, before we started incarnating with bodies in the lower dimensions of time and space. Imagine being above, near the ceiling where you live. If your eyes are closed, get comfortable. Sit in a chair, lay in a couch, take several deep breaths. And then imagine someone or something that makes you smile inside when you first picture it, when you first imagine it. For me, it's a little kitty named Starlight, pure as the driven snow, and I just smile inside. And he isn't even human, but he is an Atma running that cat body, though. I know this from direct experience when I'm not in this body. So you're near the ceiling. You just imagine this, daydream it. You do it all the time. You look down on it kindly and you say, well, that's a body and brain I'm running, and I'm separate from that. And then you look out through the walls and ceiling of the house where you are, and you find yourself suddenly at 10,000 feet in the atmosphere of Earth, looking down on the city where you live. And you're hovering there as a spherical radiant being with a white core, built-in layers separated from each other, that goes through the spectrum of light as you understand it, as we do on Earth, from white to yellow to orange to red to green to blue to lavender to violet, surrounded by a golden white energy field, same as what's in the core. And that extends out into what we call, well, we don't call it that anymore. It's not really a void out there in space, is it? It's packed full of a white golden light of energy. The Atma out of its body, like you are now, can clearly see it. Physical human eyes are not capable of detecting a higher frequency like this, but you can. You just need to remember it. Begin the process of remembering it. It starts an unfolding cycle that cannot be reversed, fortunately. And you look out around your town, down on Earth, wherever you are, whether it's day or night, you'll find that you are luminous, and it lights up the surrounding area around you as if it was daylight. And yet you can see the stars right through the clouds. You can penetrate right through them. When you look down, you can see you are a sphere hovering by the ceiling near above your body. You are hovering in both places simultaneously, the same moment. The Atma can do this. A brain and body cannot. Then you find yourself suddenly in outer space, high above, outside the Earth's orbit, outside the planet's surface, the atmosphere, the polar ice caps, and the oceans and lands you're familiar with seeing. You see it in satellite images of Earth. You see it in people, astronauts photographing the Earth. You see it from the Hubble telescope, photographing the Earth or looking out amongst the stars and other instruments. When you get out of your own physical body consciously, as we're doing now, to whatever degree you're aware of this with any confidence, you can see the Earth for what it is. You don't have to ask anybody else. You don't have to request permission from anyone to know what it's really like. You can see it for yourself. And you're not alone in space. We're far above the planet, far enough out to where you look at the land masses and the oceans and polar ice caps and the barren moon with meteor craters all over it. It doesn't turn on its axis, has no oxygen atmosphere, and it moves around the Earth without turning, always showing us the same face. When you look at Earth and those continents, you can't see buildings or roads or cities or towns or aircraft or anything else. It just looks like one planet with one atmosphere. In space, we are not alone. Everyone on this journey, you're going to see that there are a number of us hovering as spherical beings in a circle. Out in space, you don't feel any cold or heat or radiation from the sun. None. And you haven't brought any negative thoughts or emotions with you because they remain turned off back with the sleeping body on Earth. The trance state called sleep means the body can be asleep, regenerating and healing, or unconscious. The eyes are closed, so it's not seeing any light coming into the eyes that the brain can detect or put on a screen. Anything like that. And you, in space, are hovering around another being who's a good friend of mine. He is not from Earth. He is human, but far more evolved in galactic histories than people on Earth. We get the genomes that make up our DNA originally from this race. They are the most ancient race amongst many galaxies. This body he's showing you, standing in the center of all of us, is 18 feet tall. They don't have physical bodies as a burden to carry around like we do on Earth, but they can manifest one standing there as plain as day, even appear as a solid physical body on Earth if they had a mission to carry out, and it was important enough to do so. The body he's showing you, like a white tunic type gown, slightly curvy, wavy, long blonde hair, and big blue eyes, a little bigger than Earth humans, slightly pointed ears, looks to be like a Greek god about 36 with two thumbs up with his thumbs up and a golden white light around them, like a sphere of light. And behind him is a spherical Atma, just like you, running that form. He's showing a projection, a pure energy form that looks physical, that the Say-Rays race, which is the race he belongs to, had over 1 billion years ago before they immortalized their bodies in a very specific way. They did not immortalize them so they remain 36 and never age. They did something much more advanced. They dematerialized the structure that makes up the DNA and stored it in a white golden grid pattern, like the memory cells in a computer, and then stored it in a teardrop in one of the layers that is the spherical being they are. When they want to manifest a form for teaching or to be anywhere, they'll draw upon the one primordial first sound energy, the hue, that's in the universe between all things that float in it. And they'll manifest a body around that grid pattern and build a DNA body on the spot, instantaneously. When they're done utilizing it for whatever reason, they just store it again. So they do not have the burden of carrying around a physical body like we do. And yet, the DNA that makes up the evolutionary form of humans on Earth came originally from them, as it did for many spacefaring races in our galaxy and other galaxies, because the Say-Rays did not originally evolve in our galaxy at all. In the Say-Rays Agenda book, one of 2 books that I've published, there's a special techniques section at the back. But in the journey of Mark Sandfield and Janice Carter, people just like you that didn't remember how they got on Earth or who they were, and through the intervention of beings from elsewhere, human in this case, they recovered who they are. And they meet with this being, Ambassador Torellian is his name, and that's just the meeting of the presence of this being changes them. The energy that he is moved through him changed them in ways that you couldn't understand unless you went through the experience yourself. Something happened to the Say-Rays and to what we call the master mechanics of creation, silent mentors, an order of beings whose only job has been to maintain the structure of the universe, galaxies floating between each other, floating and turning in this void of energy that isn't a void. It's actually a white golden light everywhere. And he presented himself after going through a consciousness change, an unexpected one, to the Galactic Council, which is on a planet near the galactic core of this galaxy we call the Milky Way. And his presence there changed 5,000 members that represent more than 450 million spacefaring races in just under a little under one half of our entire galaxy. Something new is underway, and it began in the realms above the void a very short period of time ago. Something unexpected. If something hadn't changed, if beings from other worlds hadn't intervened here just enough to keep us from nuclear war, the people that pushed the button a number of times during the Cold War would have annihilated all life on this planet. That wasn't stopped because they were reasonable or rational men. It was stopped from outside the Earth. The beings who did that did not intervene in governments or try to take over. They just said, look, you can do whatever you want, but you cannot do that because you don't have the right to, in your ignorance and fear, destroy your world and harm life elsewhere, which such an event would certainly do. So Turellian in space, with us in a circle around him, is serving as a focal point of sanity. The two thumbs up with the golden energy around them, he's maintaining a focus of the energy that's everywhere and holding a space around all of us on this journey that is safe and that helps people recover who they are, because the other beings that are here I have not yet described are master teachers or experts in their field, like how to remove subconscious implants in people that negatively drive them in the wrong direction every day. They know what they are doing, and they were never born on Earth, and they do not have subconscious minds either, because that's artificial as well. There are 4 of them that I work with often, have introduced to people that are from, and generally in the areas of Pleiades, that constellation, 400 light years away, kind of over there, but further back into thousands upon thousands of star systems. And they are part of a galactic alliance of spacefaring worlds. They patrol in ships in our own solar system, and they maintain a quarantine around our entire solar system for one purpose: to prevent tyrant extraterrestrials from coming here again, even though the negative effect they've left on people here is great. It's reversible. So they quarantine our solar system in a certain kind of way so that we can eventually come out of this self-destructive consciousness in unexpected new ways and be offered the ability to play among the stars with others. That will change the Earth quite dramatically, quite swiftly. And we have to build up to that point, because in the end, as Atmas, we have to ask. Think of these beings as knowing where they come from the source above the void in the higher realms, and yet they're running physical bodies and spaceships at the same time. And when you think of them, do not think that they act or think they are superior, because they don't think like that. They know the most unconscious, fear-ridden person with a subconscious mind that's driving to not remember anything on Earth. They know what that being's potential is when it recovers who it is. So they don't think like we do, or like people on Earth generally do. And they have the ability and the means to transform worlds. That's old stuff to them. Very old. But they don't force it on anyone. We are in space. You are a spherical being. Your body's back on Earth asleep. These beings, his name, well, there's 2 couples, Shantiel, Tonatiel, Damtiam, and Lamtiam. Dantiam, Lamtiam. They are hyphenated 2-part names. They're human, although they live much, much longer lifespans than we do. They don't have microscopic bacteria competing for their life inside their bloodstreams. They don't have that on their worlds either. They got rid of all that a long time ago. So their interests are on a much different scale, and they're aware of so much more life that's out there in the universe. They have to think and create for the benefit of all, not just the people on their own planet. That is the great gift of consciousness they can bring to this world. They're beginning to work with some of you at night when you're out of your body, all over the planet. And that is being ramped up. So someone who's running around on Earth with, say, I don't know, $1 trillion and doesn't have the consciousness other than a brick and is completely materialistic, as an example, I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, will have a change in consciousness. And that energy, which is all money is, will be redirected collectively with the help from beings from other worlds to transform this planet. And it will be good for those beings doing it and for the rest of the populace. There is sanity to this changed destiny from an Armageddon self-destructed one prophesied in the past to one unexpected that puts us in a different future than we ever dreamed possible. These beings, man and woman, couples, normally pilot a scout craft about 30 feet wide, and they can change the molecular time rate easily so it becomes invisible to radar, or they can allow you to see them. Blink in, blink out. These two couples are particularly adept at removing subconscious secondary implants from people. These are the ones of terrorizing artificial construction from other lives forced on you that keep held down what's called a primary implant. And that is one of torture, death, and all those other kinds of things from other lives that people are terrified to remember because they've been told it will happen to them again if it does. That is nothing more than brainwashing of tyrants. But if you can convince a being to believe it, they're going to give their imagination and emotion over to negative pictures. And then they're going to be creating that. That's self-trapping. So we want to get across out in space where we can comprehend it, free from the negative influences, compacted in wave forms in the atmosphere of Earth, up where there aren't any. These two couples, part of their job and that of Turelian and other master teachers who are here, operate to keep you from bringing or turning on negative emotions and imagination while you're up here, because that's where it can be most beneficial. They're just off for now. When you're above the earth seeing these other beings, Perry, myself, I'm kind of hovering next to Turelian near the center of this circle. And I'm much shorter than him. I mean, he's 18 feet tall, showing you an example of what they used to look like. But above me is a spherical Atma running the body about 36. And it is an energy body that looks physical, perfectly healthy, flawless. Standing in space, appearing to breathe, yet it is not a material body. And then you realize that each one of you have a body that looks about 36, perfectly healthy in every way, standing there. So we can recognize each other as individual beings. The hue, the sound of the hue radiates under your feet in the white golden light of eternity. It has a sound in the physical universe. It is not disturbing or threatening. It's deep, but it's like rolling thunder, but not frightening, soothing. And you can tell the sound is coming from this bright golden light, because now when you look in space from up here as an Atma, even through the eyes of this non-material physical looking body, you can see the energy that appears black in photographs that surrounds the Earth, the moon, the sun, the stars, and different galaxies. There's a powerful white golden light everywhere in which these things that spin to create gravitational fields are floating. And it is supporting all of that. if you ask Shantiel and Tonaltiel and Dantian and Lamtian to help you as fellow human beings from other worlds, they can assist you and many of their associates to help you be free of subconscious misdirecting secondary implants programs so that you can turn them off, just like you turn off a button on your computer and shut it down. And when that happens, things brighten up, light gets brighter, everything starts to resurface. Higher faculties begin to become aware in you again, and you begin to exercise them back into functional capability. The hue that's everywhere, the one power that creates all form and all things that we imagine in it, does not work with, in any way, shape, or form, negative artificially created emotions or imagination. Tyrant beings in the lower dimensions of time and space will be happy to work with you with that, but that will just trap you. So we want to get free of that. Terrellian is smiling at all of you, and as his thumbs are pointing upward with a white golden light around it, you begin to feel this light, white golden light glow a little brighter in the core of your own spherical being, hovering above this physical body. Looks just like you. Strong, healthy, perfectly trim, flawless in every way. About 36, young adult age, like Terrellian. One of the most beneficial things that I can ever demonstrate for others, for now, until I'm authorized to do more, let's put it that way, is to help people experience what it's like to be outside the negative influences in the atmosphere of planet Earth. It's a beautiful planet, but the people, everything that's ever been thought of or imagined, good and bad, torture and death, and all the tyrants in Earth's history, are still roaming around the inside of the atmosphere in frequency wavelengths, like a radio wave that bounces off the ionosphere to get around the curvature of the Earth. It's all still there. And people are influenced by these patterns of the past all the time. And they just stimulate negative subconscious drives that are programmed in people they don't even know they have. So we're spending time in this particular journey above the atmosphere of Earth, out in space. Not in a spaceship, not in a physical body, but as who and what we really are. The hue that floats through everything, this telepathic medium, the first sound, the first missing word in spiritual scriptures or religious doctrines, is not a spoken word or written word at all. It is a first sound, before there was even light. And we're made of or comprised of that very core energy ourselves, which means, as an Atma, not a body or brain, how old are you? If you exist as energy that is not comprised of atomic or nuclear force, or atoms or electrons or anything like that, then you existed before the worlds of time and space were even constructed. When you begin to recall who you are as this, the communication between you and the source is direct. We're going to go on a little journey. First, I want to show you something. There are two other master teachers I know and respect that are beginning to appear. One is Master Ramu, and he has a golden staff made of quartz. It's glowing with a gold light. It's a device about 6 feet tall with a cross with an ankh, an upright vertical oval top with a hole in it. It's called an ankh. And although Egyptian history used this, they didn't invent it. It was brought to Earth from elsewhere. And he always carries it in his right hand. He's a teacher. Short cropped curly beard, black curly hair, swarthy skin, dark, kind of a darker brown, about 6 feet tall, maroon robe and sandals. And he's showing you a form that's been immortalized. He actually has a body like this on Earth that he can move around. It does not age. There's another being called Master Opellum standing off to the right of us in the circle of beings that we are. And he has pale blue skin, emerald green eyes, and long, shiny, silken black hair. Slightly pointed ears, about 6 feet tall, with a very blue-green type of gown on that is, well, let's face it, it's extraterrestrial and elegant. He's holding up his hands with his fingers open. You can see little webs between his fingers. He lifts his neck and you can see little slits, 3 of them on each side of his neck. Otherwise, you wouldn't know they were there. This race of humans live on a mostly water-covered world on a planet in the 3rd higher parallel dimension of the physical universe, on the opposite side of the galaxy from Earth. And they evolved genetically very similar to our DNA, with the ability to breathe underwater or on land. They are considered to be the most advanced, crystal science-based, technologically advanced race in our galaxy. They help sponsor the creation of what is called the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds, centered on a planet not in but near the galactic core of the Milky Way galaxy. We're going to go on a little journey through a method called direct projection. There is the slow way of opening a portal between here and there and moving through it beyond the speed of light, and it's fun. But today, right now, you're going to see, I'm going to wave my hand. Terrellian's doing this, and these master teachers are. We're working on it together. And you're going to see an opening in the fabric of space, tiny blue stars circling clockwise, and it opens like the eye of a camera. And on the other side of it, you can see the planet Saturn with its rings made of big chunks of ice, about 1.5 miles thick. And we suddenly find ourselves on the other side of that opening, looking back through the opening, and all of us still hovering around Terrellian above the planet Earth with the polar ice caps and the barren moon. And then that vortex closes and vanishes. We are hovering above at a downward angle, looking on the ice rings of Saturn that make up the rings that surround a big gas giant. So how did ice get out there to make up the rings that make up the rings of Saturn, a gas giant? And down in it, underneath the surface, is a mile-long cylindrical ship called an Emerald Star Cruiser. It is a mile-long, cylindrical, slightly flattened on the top and bottom, with curved bridge control windows on one end and the identical one on the other side. And you can see a pale blue light radiating around its hull. That's an anti-gravitic light. Protects it from hitting chunks of ice, and it's floating there stationary. You can see 30-foot wide scout craft approaching the center section of the hull down inside the ice because we're moving down into it so we can see it. And they're glowing with a pale blue anti-gravitic light around their hull. And they're moving to the central section of this mile-long ship. And then they turn a little bit silver white and turn transparent and move right through the hull. And then you see an opening in the hull, and you can see a huge football stadium-sized launch bay. And the ship comes down inside this vast open area, turns solid again, and lands next to others. They don't have open launch bays in these types of ships. They're sealed. They're designed to travel through interdimensional vortex portals to get from one reality to another in this physical parallel dimension, from one star system to another, or from this system to a planet in a system a number of parallel dimensions above our own. Anti-gravitic field technology also incorporates in its ability to function an additional capability to raise the molecular time rate of the electromagnetic field that surrounds the craft. Thus, when you see something or hear stories about ships blinking in and out, this is what they're doing. It's just technology. To the people who do it, they grew up with it. It's like riding a bus. No big deal. It isn't something people on Earth need to invent, and they couldn't do it anyway. All the technology they're using today that's more advanced came from races out among the stars anyway. It's not original. You have to go back considerably far in galactic history to find out originality of any advanced technology. So we're not going to higher dimensions on this journey. We're keeping it close to home. We are now hovering near the central section and moving slightly forward towards the outer ice rings of Saturn, just behind, about a third of the way behind the bridge windows of this ship. It has horizontal, oval-shaped view windows running down the entire upper central circumference of the ship for the pleasure of those in big meeting lounge rooms to be able to look out among the stars and enjoy their journey and companionship. And we're going to move right through the hall as spherical energy beings and find suddenly that we are standing. Remember these bodies that look just like you, perfectly healthy, about 36, with the spherical you hovering above it? And you can see your feet wiggling in soft, plush blue carpet. You're in a 60-foot high by many feet long lounge chamber, and you can see these horizontal oval view portals. You can see the ice rings of Saturn and many of its moons circling the planet. Then you realize that we are being met by the ship's personnel. Some of them anyway. And two beings, a man and a woman, are standing up. They're human, but not from Earth. And they're the commanders of this ship. And they greet you by placing their right hand over their heart area and slightly nodding. Turellian, 18 foot tall, is standing up behind us with the spherical being he is running him, greeting them in the same way. Of course, they know who he is. And so all of you are standing now in a form that looks like you on carpet, being greeted by hundreds of the ship's personnel, men and women, coming up to you from different world systems, different kinds of skin colors and eye colors and hair and height, snake-like skin, but elegant and beautiful. Red eyes and green and purple or violet eyes. Different hued skin tones. Some Oceanians with the webs between their fingers. These are ship's personnel in a Galactic Alliance Emerald Star cruiser. They have a little symbol on their chest, a silvery galaxy with a golden pyramid with a quartz cap, hovering above the center of the nucleus of the galaxy with 3 blue stars set above the apex of the pyramid. Elegant single form-fitting gowns fit over them, including the shoes. They're not encumbered by separate pieces of clothing. Very advanced stuff. So you're going to find that some of these men and women are going to smiling kindly. You feel uplifted by their presence. And they're going to come up to you and begin to talk with you, not by moving their lips. Consciousness to consciousness, telepathically. And you'll begin to hear what they share with you. They greet you in the name of the source behind all life. And then they suggest that if you request their assistance, they or their associates will assist you to recover who you are every night while your body is in the trance state called sleep back on Earth. They are aware of who they are. If you look at them now, you'll see a spherical Atma like you hovering above all those forms. They're running around on this ship. When you listen with the inner awareness, the inner third eye of the central white core of your spherical being, you will hear the sound of eternity vibrating in the atmosphere inside this lounge chamber aboard this ship. When I'm here, I often hear, it's hard to describe. It's like millions of men and women's voices with perfect vocal cords singing the word hue, connecting to the source that supports and sustains their movement through it in life. Because they're made of the same energy on a higher level. And I hear these tones, these three tones that bring higher energy down to the lower worlds. It has a beautiful melody to it. I've heard it all my life. It sounds like this. Hue, 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 hue. That's what it sounds like. But it's different than an audible tone from vocal cords. It's an impression, a sound, a whole round tone with many parts on many levels. And when I hear that, and when I hear that being projected in this room with extraterrestrial kind beings from many worlds represented here, and all of you from Earth, none of you originated on Earth. You are all extraterrestrial in nature. The Atma didn't even originate in the lower dimensions of time and space on any world. That's how extraterrestrial we really all are. Out here amongst friends from the stars, far beyond the confines of the negative atmosphere of Earth, and I love the planet, but people are nuts. They don't know who they are, and they make mistakes governmentally, religiously, every single day because they're in fear of recovering who and what they really are. There's a responsibility that goes with knowing and recovering the enlightenment of the Atma. We become inherently aware that we are meant to co-create new wondrous ways of doing things for the source behind all life, with it, not as its slaves. We respect each other. What is divine love? It is knowing the multidimensional nature of the universe and all the life in it and respecting it and being respected by it. And to do that, we have to respect the source behind all life as it respects us. The example these beings set for all of you demonstrates this. We are now outside this ship, hovering above the ice rings of Saturn, in a circle around Torelli, and he's very pleased. There's Master Ramu, Master Opelum, and my friend Etta, who's a Dren. The Drens are a race of beings, silica-based, not carbon, that evolved in huge emptied-out volcanic chambers on the bottom of the Oceanian sea floor. Oceania is the planet mostly covered by water where Master Opelum comes from. There's a few islands near the equator where they have dome cities and tubes that connect them to dome cities in the bottom of the Oceania Ocean. This race of beings developed the ability as an organic creature to defy gravity and fly through the air. They have a second set of eyelids that close down and one in their nostrils they can go about 256 miles an hour. Levitating. Their tail from the root to its tip glows like crystal opal in bright sunlight. And so Etta is here, kind of curled up around Torellian's shoulder, way up there. And he hovers off his shoulder and stands up like he's standing on ground with his tail out behind him. He's showing you his little dexterous hands, and they have individual fingers and toes like a human. But he's a pale green skin, not moist, big bulbous blue eyes. Looks like his snout, he's like, when his mouth is closed, it looks like he's amused about something. And he is courageous to a fault. This being, not human, actually has this physical body in the physical universe. And when you look behind it, you see an Atma running it. It is not human. Now, this is a master teacher, this little guy, and a very dear ancient friend of mine, and vice versa. And he flies over and he lands on my shoulder. And we give each other kind of like one of these, old buddies. And he levitates out in front of me. He's about 3 feet long, and he shows you that he can walk on the ground or run on all fours like an animal. Yet he can fly through the air, which humans cannot do. He is also a being, though not human, that you can ask for assistance from to help be free of subconscious drives if you have the courage to do it. Etta would die for you if he had to save your life. He exemplifies all the highest and best qualities of an advanced human, and he is not human. It is the Atma hovering above this body that is the qualities we're referring to. And then we find ourselves hovering around Turelian. Etta's there, Opelum's there, Master Ramu is there, Shantiel, Tonatiel, Dantiam, Lamtiam from the Galactic Alliance. These experts in implant removal, at least the secondary ones that get you moving in the right direction, are here. And then you find yourself hovering in the atmosphere at 10,000 feet as a spherical being. And a man and a woman hovering in front of you, showing you a form about 36, standing beside the one that you are displaying about the same age. And they're smiling at you. A hand in front of their chest, they nod, and they say they're there to assist you if you wish for their assistance. And then you see yourself hovering above your body back on Earth, looking kindly down on that physical sleeping body, whether it's sitting or lying down. And you send a little white golden beam of light from the white core of your being down into the pineal gland, the center of the brain, and then it expands in a growing circle until it's about 2 miles wide. And the energy continues past this circle of energy for the uplifting benefit of your fellows. Out into the universe. It travels through 3 pyramids now stationed on Earth, massive, the bottom of Earth's deepest oceans. Golden-sided, 4-sided, quartz-capped, and there is a type of a fountain with a white alabaster scalloped edge inside, each one. There's one hidden inside a hollowed-out mountain in the Himalayas, and there's one in our asteroid field in our solar system, hovering between 2 stationary asteroids in the asteroid field that circles in the orbit of what was once a planet between Mars and Jupiter. And it connects to it. And then that connects to bigger ones that's positioned now between each star in our Milky Way galaxy. The energy continues back upward. It goes into higher realities. Be kind to yourself. Be kind in what you do with your imagination and emotions. Put out that which will only be of an uplifting benefit to all life, and you will be on the road to what we call true free will and the conscious awareness as a being of being a co-creator with the source behind all life. When you're ready, open your eyes.
Thank you for the journey.
Now I can hear you.
Well. So I hope that people who go on this journey will benefit of this, to remove the implants too, some way, somehow.
I can get these headphones off now, which I wear to give the recording quality better when we go on these journeys. My physical body is generally in the trance state called sleep, long before yours are. I've just learned how to work the eyes and ears, and for your benefit and for the benefit of others. So I can speak with people so they can hear my voice, so they have something to focus on instead of themselves, so we can get out of our bodies consciously while the body's put to sleep. So people do this every night anyway. They might as well be conscious and learn how to bring back what it is they're doing when they're out of their body every night. Changes everything in the consciousness of a being when they start down that road, or up that road, I should say. So I wanted to share with people, for what it's worth. Let's see, I think I have another one somewhere.
Your 2 books.
Yeah, we've done it every time. They know that there's the Say-Raise agenda. And
the time you're looking for it, we provide the Scott's website under this video, so you can always click and check there, go there.
This is one of them. First one of a trilogy series. These are humans from another planet on antigravitic disks. This is Kalem's ship. He's Kalem. Not from Earth, part of a galactic alliance. There's Etta hovering there. Master Ramu. And this is the ancient one. And this book takes place a little over 100,000 years ago, involving extraterrestrials. Mostly benevolent, but not all. They're hovering above what's left, and new continents rose from the seafloor after the poles flipped and destroyed Lemuria, or Mu, and Atlantis, which was a huge colony continent on the other side of the equator, 2/3 its size, long before the Atlantis that Edgar Cayce talked about, which I believe he said it sank 35,000 years ago. This is over 100,000 years ago. This is a doorway to what's called the fifth realm above the void, known to certain esoteric groups. This is the ancient one, prime creator, the source. Looks like this in one form on a very much bigger scale. What these beings, other than this master teacher, do not know at this time is that one of these looks just like that's hovering above their heads, running these forms. They learn that later on. So there's also the Sayres agenda, which I don't know where that book is now. Maybe it's down in my car or something. But when you go to my website, you'll see it. And it shows you the cylindrical ships entering the hall in the ice rings of Saturn in our solar system on the front cover. It's original artwork, commissioned to be done with my careful supervision. It was not taken from the internet. The people who play the parts in those books on the covers and the back covers are real people, actors in costume to play the parts. So that's what you'll see. And then on the front and back covers of both books are actual scenes from the books themselves. So in the back of the Sayres agenda is a special technique section. There is a special technique designed for the prologue and a separate one for each of the 29 chapters that work with the hue like we worked with tonight, that can benefit people. If people can't read or hear English, they can put one of these books under their bed, and they will get help from people like Shantiel and Tonatiel and Dantiam and Lamtiam and others, because people from other worlds can speak any language fluently. Humans on Earth, when they're recovered properly, can do the same thing. So you won't have any problem if you work with them at night when you're out of your body. They will speak with you in the language you're used to, and maybe even help you understand others. Yeah, Perry.
Before we leave the show, I have a question from Big Mac. Do you know about the coming event at Cosmic Scale on the 21st December?
If I said yes, then it would be like I'm confirming a date they're putting out on the internet. I'm not doing that. If I said no, then they would say, well, he doesn't know what's going on. See, I understand how people think. On Earth anyway. Let's just say life will go on after this event.
Okay, because so many people, I mean, in Thailand too, they like spread this news and make people worry, you know.
Yeah, well, anything that has any negative nature to it about the future is, and I quote this, misdirected energy. And it will never, if it's that the source of the energy is negative, will never be accurate and will not happen in the way people are shouting about it in negative ways, if it's negative. I don't follow these other things that people predict because I don't predict anything. I'm not a psychic. I'm not a seer, a prognosticator of future events or dates. People on Earth will latch onto those dates and fixate on them. And they won't change themselves or become more enlightened. Then when the date comes and goes, they go, ooh. And whoever put that out is going to say, well, they changed their minds and it got pushed in the future or something like that. I don't predict or state dates of what I know the Galactic Alliance is doing or will do with this Earth. Someone in a ambassadorial kind of a position would not do that, because we understand what people will do with that information. It won't be beneficial to them. We want people to be able to work with their creative imagination in ways that will set them free from not knowing who they are, what they knew before they were born here. Anything else is, to me, a negative misdirection. I'm not saying that's what this prediction is this person's talking about, because I don't know what that is really. But I know about something much more important in galactic and Earth history than a date on a certain day. And that has to do more with unexpected uplifting change for the people of Earth. And it's not going to happen because of the decisions masses of people make on this planet. It's going to happen because of the decisions people make who are free from subconscious minds, who are not on this planet. They don't want to see us destroyed. Some of the people on Earth are cousins and relatives of people that live on other planets today, and they don't even know it. And it's true. It's true as looking out the billions of stars in the galaxy and looking at a telescope, looking online on the internet, and seeing all these galaxies. Where do you think we all came from? From an amoeba that grew a human DNA body like this and over 100 million years, and then suddenly just sprang out of the ground as human beings. If you want to find the missing link to how human beings came into existence, you will never find it on Earth because it isn't located on this planet originally anyway. So I want to leave people with that. It's not only good for thought, it's good for them to contemplate a different arena, a wider arena of life than they're used to hearing about. It will help them. That's why I do this. It's the only reason I do it. So Perry, I want to thank you again for having the courage to do this. It takes courage.
I have to thank you too to bring this up to people too. And thank you everyone for watching. Thumb up, subscribe if you like and you think benefit others.
Yeah, well, the links will be provided, as always, on the bottom of the recording of this journey that Perry will put on her YouTube channel. It's not even my channel, it's hers.
Okay, no, thank you. So we see you again next time.
See you. Bye for now. Oh, pleasant dreams.